Hello, hello, beautiful people. It is amazing, amazing, amazing to be back with you today. We are enjoying coming back slow from a long weekend over here at Career Gems for the Journey. So we appreciate if you've taken the time to be here with us, knowing that a lot of people take this week to really chill and kind of have their official kickoff to summer. So we won't be in front of you long. We're going to continue to stay on our theme of trying to make our content as digestible and easy to access as possible. So we're going to jump back in to our Do You Hate Networking or Are You Uncomfortable Talking About Yourself and Accomplishment series. If you're with us here live today, please do drop your city in the chat. We would love to know who is with us, no matter who you are and whether or not you want to stay in the chat and be participating there, or whether or not you drop your city and you don't say anything else to us. We would really appreciate you letting us know who's with you, with us, with me today. So I wanted to, something came to me over the last couple of weeks as we've been talking about networking. And oftentimes, networking is something that feels very transactional. And it can feel like, how do I get to the point where I don't feel like I'm asking a stranger for something that only benefits me? And it does take time and effort to be able to learn more about what people need and what they want and how you can play a role in that and how the network builds from an organic relationship. So I wanted to talk just about why traditional kind of networking, exchanging business cards fails when you're outside of the environment where that would be really successful. So the environment where very transactional networking will be successful is things like conferences or things like business events, meetups, planned events where the goal is or the objective is networking. When people go into those spaces, they expect to get people approaching them, meeting new people. It's very much of the mindset of people are looking to grow their network there. So the receptivity to that is really high. So I wanted to make sure that folks felt like there is a traditional kind of transactional networking that happens a lot of times. And it doesn't mean you throw that out the window completely. It just means you apply that networking and relationship building strategy in those spaces specifically. And then you're more likely to have success because everybody's going there with the same idea, with the same intention in mind. And if you run into somebody who doesn't have that idea or doesn't want to interact with people that way, they're normally going to be the anomaly. So you tell them it was great to meet you and you move on because other people, 10, 12, 30, whatever the number is, other people are coming to do exactly what you intended to do, which is how do I meet some more people? How do I make sure I get a better sense of who's in this city or in this region or in this professional organization or whatever it is? They came with a similar objective. So transactional networking works well in those environments. Where it fails, and this is where I wanted to make sure I made the distinction for folks, where very transactional networking fails is when you're in more casual environments and when you're in environments that require you to have a higher sense of emotional intelligence. So those environments can look like birthday parties, events, mutual arrangements between friends, meeting people in a organic, kind of a grocery store or at a concert. Those traditional networking, it just doesn't really make sense. And I think when folks feel like, okay, how do I make the choice or what's the right time and place? I think time and place is really important to make sure you add the context. So I think you should go to conferences, to professional networking events, the whole 9 yards, with the intention in mind that I'm going to go and it's going to be transactional, but everybody's coming with the same type energy. So then when you go to non standard kind of traditional networking events, you're prepared to just be a better listener. You're prepared with a higher level of emotional intelligence so that you can actually make a real connection with someone. And that only comes because you listened, you learned a little bit more about them, you asked thoughtful questions. So I think it's a both and model. Very traditional transactional networking has a place, but more relationship building or more organic connections that happen in lots and lots of other spaces require you to be higher in your emotional intelligence, to be attuned, to be a great listener, making great eye contact, carrying on thoughtful conversation through, honest curiosity and question asking. That's when the other part of networking really can shine brightly. And I think if you have a both and model, you will be absolutely dangerous in a broader general marketplace because most people don't have a both and model. I've come across so many people in casual spaces who are on a very transactional networking mode, and it's very clear, and it kind of changes the mood or the tone in the environment. And it kind of sets them as, okay, they don't really know what's going on here. Let me make sure that I connect with some other people. It kind of sets them on the outside looking in. So when I think about the maybe what could be counterintuitive, and when you're thinking about the power of networking, it really can start from a place of what do I have to give? And sometimes it's counterintuitive because we often think about networking as how we can extract potential value from an interaction or a relationship or whatever those things are. But if you go into networking thinking about how can I create reciprocity in advance? Like, how do I think about this person and this experience as something that I have to give? Then it gives you a chance to build your network through just generosity or just being a connector. So the today is talking more about how do you create an advantage through reciprocity, through starting by giving and building your network through being generous with the resources or tools that you may have, the resources, the connections you have at your disposal for individuals. And I like to think about this as if you're in a place where you're doing well and you are moving in a way that feels seamless and feels effortless and doesn't feel desperate, then those kinds of that energy will be very clear to other people. They will be attracted to you. So, what does that mean? Am I going to give too much? How do I know what the limit is or what's good or what's not? And this is where your intuition has to really come in. You think about your interactions and conversations with people and things that are going well and things that feel, really smooth. And it's like, oh, we're in the same place at the same time. This is a like-minded experience. Let's see where we can take it. Continuing to operate with generosity makes a huge difference because now it's a matter of, hey, I can connect you with this person, or I did hear about this program. Let me send you the link to it. These are just acts of generosity that then they're investments on a short-term basis in that moment that may pay off later on in the future. And you're investing in a wide array of people and experiences because it's all based on you hearing the person out and knowing what their needs are or learning more. Whether you're asking questions of them, asking questions of their peer, you heard a talk or something that they gave, but now you've plugged in, oh, I might be able to support them in this. I might be able to help them. And it doesn't always have to be grand acts. So thinking about creating a reciprocity advantage when you're building your network, thinking about the things that you already have access to that you can invite someone else into or you can incorporate or introduce someone to can be a huge, huge win for that person. Now, it may take months or weeks for you to find out what the win was, but sometimes just making a connection for someone feels right, right? It feels good, and you deal with the feeling first. That's a good feeling. I want to be able to do that again. And then when you hear from them at some point in the future, you find out what more came of that. And maybe nothing, but maybe something came out of it. And maybe they feel so grateful to you that now they're trying to look for ways they can support you and meet your needs and get creative. So let's just talk about thinking about it in a really simple, easy way. You can be networking or supporting someone, giving them something just by commenting on their social media, just by commenting on a LinkedIn post that they make or congratulating them. That is a way that feels very low risk of you supporting someone or giving them something that they may need in order to grow their professional brand or their personal brand. So I think if we take it to the place of there is lots of resources and access and abundance that each of us have, then we can say, all right, well, then what are the things that I'm willing to be able to give away and not know when that giveaway is going to return to me? I think about it as an investment that will in some way pay dividends in the future, even if you'll never really know how it pays back in the future. But this idea of strategic generosity, so then you feel like these are meaningful interactions that you're creating with people, but you're not depleted because it's things that you were already resourced on or things that you already knew, information you already had planned to share. These are the things that you can give away so freely that folks who don't know you or not connected to you will feel very impacted by. So I'll tell a quick story. There is an organization, a professional organization that I have collaborated with or worked with in the past. And for years and years and years, there's people who I have talked to and said, how did you get connected to that organization? What was this process? What did it look like? Do you think that I could join the organization? And to me, it was a no-brainer to say, yeah, let me put you in contact with these 2 or 3 people so that you can join this organization or you can enjoy their programming or enjoy their content, and do that in person and then leverage what they have to offer. So because it was something that was a need for them and it was a no-brainer for me, it was a very low risk proposition for me to give it away in an effortless way. Fast forward years later, 4 or 5 years later, the leader of that organization reaches out to me and says, thank you so much. Multiple people have said that they came to the organization or they heard about us as a result of conversations that you had. So those were investments in those individuals. I never even thought that the leader of the organization would come to reach out to me and say and thank me for sending people that way. I didn't even think it would meet their radar, right? But ultimately, doing things that felt like normal, healthy interactions from communications or from conversations and listening to people, and then them having an ask that didn't require me to sacrifice something that I was uncomfortable sacrificing, really then put me in a position to now have great conversation and relationships that built and invested in my business in the future with this organization. So it's a matter of believing that you have something that is of value that you can share. And for some of us, that's the hardest part, especially if we don't have big titles at big companies, or if we don't have, a lot of dollar resources to be able to distribute. That doesn't mean you don't have something great to share. That means you may be plugged into a program, to a graduate school, to a connection at a university, or to a connection at a venue that may host events. There's all of these things that we have that we've collected through our own life and professional work. There's a referral to a great service provider, to a stylist, to a caterer, to a personal shopper, to a grocery chain that delivers, has a better service model. All of these things are how you can share with very little effort. But it creates a networking opportunity for you to be able to give something, to create a reciprocity advantage, and you don't know when those things are going to pay back for you. So I like to think about a contribution first model where I am able to contribute something as quickly and as easily as possible. And that builds the reputation of, Leah is very generous. There's a lot to offer. She has a lot to offer. I've had multiple people in different parts of the world kind of say this in a lot of different ways. So Kwame from Negotiate Anything, which is an amazing podcast. I've been on the podcast. He's been on my podcast. He's brilliant. He actually just was on Mel Robbins' podcast recently. He talks about, his organization wanting to be the most generous and how most of his content and most of the work that he does, he gives away for free. And that giving away so much of his content for free then has created all of these opportunities and this waterfall effect of abundance and just value creation and relationship building, and people seeing him as so generous that then they want to reciprocate and create a similar tone with him. And when he told me that story and told me that his organization, even in his value statement, was about being the most generous and doing so many things that are valuable to people and doing it for free and having that payback on the back end, I was completely, in agreement. And then there's another organization that, or another woman, I can't remember her name right now, but she talks about make your give a get. So make your get a give. So if you're looking to get something from someone, lead with what you can give, how you can contribute, how you can help them. And if you do that, you'll be able to bring in people who are just close to you and feel that you are intentionally trying to support them. And then by osmosis or through other connections and just the power of your generosity and the power of the value that you've created by solving a problem for them, you get them reciprocal benefit. So really that generosity, that sharing is how you really convert one-time interactions, a conversation, something that happened in passing. Everybody's in the same, in the bathroom together, right? type situations to this is a broader opportunity to be able to talk and reconnect and figure out what more happens, how our businesses grow, how our careers flourish. That comes from those one-time interactions, but leading with generosity. And I feel like I see this all the time. I mentioned the bathroom comment. I see this all the time, especially with women in the bathroom, where it's, somebody comes into the bathroom and they need something. They need a feminine product. They need, a tissue. They need to make sure that they need something. And there are almost a flock of individuals who say, oh yeah, I can help you. I can give you this. I have this, take that. Don't worry about it. You can keep it. And it's very much something that I think is a model that we could multiply, because none of these women know each other for the most part. You're all strangers. You walk into a bathroom, you have a need, and you mention it out loud, and 4 or 5 people who are also in the bathroom will say, oh, I don't have that, but I have this. Or what other solution can we find? Or stay there, I'll go and see if I can find somebody to give you whatever it is you need. And it warms my heart every single time. But if we think about taking that same model and taking it into a networking environment or into a relationship building environment where you are on the ready to give somebody else some support, knowing that there's no chance that you're going to be able to get a return for that investment right away. It could be years, weeks, months, whatever it is, before you get that reinvestment. So I think thinking about a reciprocity model and creating an advantage by building your network through just being generous and helping people get to where they want to go. So I'm going to give you 3 takeaways in order to put this into practice and in order to take action on this right away. So if you want to do a better job in creating a reciprocity advantage by building your network through generosity, through just sharing what you have, number 1 takeaway is think about micro generosity. What are small things that you can do that will make somebody else's day, but it costs you very little effort? Think about those things. Sometimes those are time, sometimes those are relationships, sometimes those are introductions, sometimes those are comments on LinkedIn posts, sometimes those are referrals or references, sometimes those are, acknowledgments. Sometimes those are just things that are in writing where it took time for you to be able to do, but that will be advantage to someone else. So think of micro generosity, things that are low stakes, ways that you can constantly be creating an environment of generosity so that those things not only come back to you in the future, but you get a reputation for being generous. And then the other one, number 2 of your takeaway is how do you think about being a strategic connector for people? Maybe you're not connecting people around a job, but maybe you're connecting students with scholarship opportunities. Maybe you're, reaching out and going out of your way to connect individuals with memberships to professional organizations that you're really excited about and you're a member of. Maybe you're working directly with professionals, individuals who are looking for a particular, type of skill, or even if it's, service providers. How do you think of being a strategic connector? I had a list. I had folks when I was planning the Career and Care Summit, and we talked a lot about this, that were just effortless in, okay, let me introduce you to 1 or 2 people. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm going to make the introductions and then you can take it from there. That is a great example of a strategic connector. Just link people for mutual beneficial opportunities. That service provider is who I needed. The service provider wants to grow their business. How do I become a strategic connector? And then number 3, think about being generous consistently at events where you're looking to build connections and relationships. So the transactional nature, like we talked about at conferences or professional organizations or at corporate events or at happy hours, whereas the very transactional nature of networking is expected and everybody's on the same type time. But when you're outside of those formal settings and you're in more informal settings, how do I think about going in? What do I have to offer? How can I contribute to someone who I'm there with? And I think the best way to do that is to think about the micro generosity and thinking about being a strategic connector and connecting people with resources, service providers, examples, sharing your own story, connecting people to whatever it is they're looking for. And then those connections multiply as an investment that'll come back to you at some point in the future. So I think it is a great opportunity for us to think about creating a reciprocity advantage and building your network through generosity. And your takeaways are thinking about micro generosity. What are the small things that can get us, get you over the hump, that solve problems or create opportunities for others? And the other one is around how do you become a strategic connector? How do you connect people with things that are going to help make their life, their job, their parenting, their professional, their physical life better. And if you can look for opportunities where it is not a formal networking event to do those two things, to practice microgenerosity and become a strategic connector, and you can look for informal ways to be able to do that, I guarantee you that those investments will at some point pay you back in the future. So if this has been helpful for you, I would really appreciate it if you would share it. You can catch the replay 24 hours after we record. Share it with somebody who's looking to grow their network and looking to do it in a way that feels really authentic to them and doesn't feel stale. It doesn't feel very transactional or formal. So we're all looking to grow our networks and all looking to build our relationships because we never know how we're going to come across the next person or who the next person will be that gets us one step closer to our dreams. And that's only possible through building a network. So I appreciate you for riding with us today. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time right here. And until we meet again, make your journey work for you.